Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment here. If you can take your seats. Thank you. All right. All right. Good afternoon, scholars, colleagues, and friends. And welcome to the 73rd Annual International Communication Association Conference Awards Ceremony, Fellows Induction, Business Meeting, and Presidential Address. I'm so pleased. Am I echoey? Am I good? Okay, good. I am so pleased to join all of you today as we honor the advancements of our colleagues and the achievements and the resilience of this organization. Before we begin, I would like to offer a brief word on the land on which we stand today. The International Communication Association acknowledges that our 2023 conference and related events are being held on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, land which is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. ICA also acknowledges that our host city, traditionally known as Takaranto, is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands, and that our conference takes place within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. To say all of this is to acknowledge a great debt to those that were here before us, and to recognize our responsibility as guests on this land to respect and honor the intimate relationship that Indigenous peoples have to this land, even as we welcome the Indigenous peoples of other lands around the globe. We express our deep gratitude for the opportunity to visit and learn about this land and its people, and we encourage all attendees of this year's conference to seek out ways to discover more about the rich cultural history of Takaranto, the surrounding areas, and those who have lived here for centuries. Thank you. And now, without further ado, I will welcome to the lectern our esteemed ICA president, Dr. Noshir Contractor.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks again for all of you to be here, and welcome to this meeting. As you all know, ICA's history of excellence is due in no small part to those esteemed colleagues who have served as ICA president over the years. So let us take a moment together now to recognize those past presidents who are in attendance here in Toronto and thank them for their contributions. All ICA past presidents, will you please stand up? Thank you. Now, would you please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of our ICA member colleagues who have passed away in the past year. Thank you. It is now my honor to introduce you to those individuals who have agreed to put their names forward in the next election as candidates for the open positions on the ICA Board of Directors. If you are in the room, please stand when I say your name and give a little wave, or a big wave, so we can all see you. First, the ICA Board of Directors includes 2 student and early career representatives on staggered 2-year terms. There is therefore 1 opening each year. This year, our 3 candidates for that opening are Daniela Jaramillo-Dent from the University of Zurich, Felicia Lochebach from New York University, and Nikki McLaren from Arizona State University. If any of you are in the room, please stand up, wave. Yes, there you go. There you go. Thank you so much for being willing to serve your association. We also have two excellent candidates for ICA president this year. I'm delighted to present the two presidential candidates for the October 2023 election, Thomas Hanich from Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich and Yarif Sfati from the University of Haifa. Please, could you please stand up? There we go. Each of these excellent candidates will write platform statements that will appear in upcoming issues of the ICA newsletter, and the election will be held online during the month of October. Our sincere thanks to each of you for your willingness to serve the association, and good luck to all of our candidates. We also wish to recognize our board members who have served their divisions and interest groups and the association as a whole so diligently, in addition to so many other strains on their time and energy. If you are in the room and serve on our current board of directors, please stand up so we can all thank you for your service. Current board of directors, rise. I will now ask past President Mary Beth Oliver to handle the next part of our ceremony.
Hello, everybody. Good conference so far? So, as you know, each president-elect embarks upon a 5.5-year commitment as part of the executive committee of ICA, first as the program planner for the next conference, then as president, then in the immediate past president role, then the less immediate past president, something we often call the president neglect, and finally as general secretary and chair of the regional conferences committee during a final year we have lovingly begun to refer to as President-eject. Terry, would you please come to the stand? Terry Flew has served in all of these roles and more, including playing a crucial role in helping to grow our regional hubs and our regional conferences and chapters as chair of the REACH committee. This conference, I'm going to tear up. I can't believe this conference represents his final week as a member of the ICA Executive Committee, and it's been our great pleasure to serve alongside him for many of those years. And I just want to say, Terry, I want to thank you for sharing with us the wealth of your knowledge, the wealth of international awareness and compassion, and your wealth of generosity for, with the time difference, still calling in every month to our EC meetings. It's really been a great pleasure to be with you all of these years. We're lucky to have benefited from you and your experience and your vision. Well, I'm really sure you're ready, probably, to rotate off. We are going to miss you terribly. So join me in thanking Terry Flew.
Thanks so much, Mary Beth, and thank you, Terry, for all your service. As every ICA member knows, this organization would not be where it is today without the support of our incredible headquarters staff. So you may be shocked to learn that this entire conference and everything else that we do at ICA all year round is managed by just 7 people. I have had the opportunity to talk to many associations about their governance, and they all look at me in shock when I say, how could you possibly manage such a large association with just 7 people? And I just smile because I know that we are really grateful to the incredible, selfless work that is done by the ICA staff. I think of the ICA staff as people who are not only extremely competent, They are passionate, they have an incredible attention for detail, and having had to work with me, they also have exhibited incredible patience. I want to recognize each of our ICA staff members next, starting with Member Services Coordinator, Carly Senesak. Are you in the room? Stand up, please. Manager of Member Services, Brad Brewer. The Director of Governance and Member Services, Julie Arnold. Some of us in our sleep have haunting memories of the Governance Handbook, and we owe that to Julie to continuously always keep that updated. Director of Publishing Operations, Tom Minkowski. Tom. And then, of course, busy at this time more than ever, the Director of Conference Services, Jennifer Lay. Where's Jennifer? The ever-poised Manager of Conference and Exhibit Services, Katie Wolf. And of course, as self-declared, the solution to all our problems, Laura Sawyer, our Executive Director. Almost as soon as I began to work with them, I realized that I only had one label for this group, and that is, they are truly our dream team. Thank you again very much. I am now pleased to welcome to the stage our current Fellows Chair, Pablo Boskowski.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's truly an honor to be here. This is not on the script, but I want to second what Noshir said. When I started being Fellows Chair, I had no idea of what I had to do, and thanks to Julie, Arnold, Laura, it has been a phenomenal year, so thank you very much. All right, esteemed colleagues, fellow status in the International Communication Association is primarily a recognition of distinguished scholarly contributions to the broader field of communication, with secondary consideration given to such criteria as service to ICA and socially or professionally significant service to other publics such as business, government, and education. Candidates may be nominated by any ICA member and must receive a majority yes vote from current fellows in order to achieve fellow status. This year, 30 new fellows will be inducted into the ICA Fellows Class of 2023. Applause. In the interest of time, I'd like to bring all of new 2023 fellows in attendance. They have been informed of this in advance of their selection, of course, to the stage at once. All right, I'll read the names. Thank you again. It's been all year like this, thankfully. Please note that we will do our plaques and our photo opportunities, including a group photo of ICA Fellows Class of 2023, after the ceremony. So please stay in front of the room for that. I will now present the ICA Fellows Class of 2023. In alphabetical order, Goran Bolling, Jim Burgess, W. Timothy Coombs, Stephen Egermont, Jennifer Gibbs, Nancy Grant Harrington, Jake Harwood, who's unable to attend in person, Klaus Brun Jensen, my boss, E. Patrick Johnson, Janice Krieger, Susan Morgan, Amy Nathanson, who's unable to attend in person, Seth Noor, Han Woo Park, John Pavlik, Robert Potter, Thorsten Quandt, Steve Rains, Shrivida Ramasubramanian, Shelley Rogers, Craig Scott, Jonathan Stern, Jesper Strombach, Monique Turner, Julia van der Vert, Tim Voss, Janet Wasco, Magdalena Wojciechak, Paul Wright, who's unable to attend in person, and Shua Joe. Everyone, I am thrilled to present you the ICA Fellows Class of 2023. Bravo! Again, all of you fellow fellows, please do stick around for photos afterwards this session. Thank you, and again, congratulations once more to all our new fellows. You good now?
Thank you, Pablo, for your leadership of the fellows this past year, and congratulations to all our new fellows. I will now invite another one of our ICA fellows, this year's Research Awards Committee Chair, Dr. Travis Dixon to the stage to present the 2023 International Communication Association Awards. Here's Travis.
Thank you, Dr. Contractor. It's such an honor to be here today to present these prestigious awards. Many thanks to all the members of each of ICA's awards committees who do tremendous work to select each of these recipients. Now, for this year's awards recipients. So please, recipients, do come up to the stage as I read your name and award information to retrieve your plaque. But please also stay after the ceremony for official photographs on stage. Let's begin with the Outstanding Article Award. This year, that award goes to Jesse Fox et al. For their article, Open Science, Closed Doors, Countering Marginalization Through an Agenda for Ethical, Inclusive Research and Communication, published in the Journal of Communication. This article offers a timely, persuasive critique of open science OS practices. The authors argue that OS movements not only fail to address systemic injustice experienced by marginalized communities, but also exacerbate and exploit existing inequities, furthering marginalization. In addition to its historical review of OS practices, the article offers concrete recommendations about how the field of communication might embrace research practices that center around the ethical treatment of persons rather than the priorities of researchers or the demands of data. One recommender noted that the piece makes a, quote, a paradigm-shifting impact on the trajectory of the field in a manner that can both improve scientific rigor and simultaneously demonstrate care for understudied populations, unquote. Given the prominence of OS in communication in recent years, including as the ICA conference theme in 2020, the piece is generative, provocative, and necessary. The committee agrees with another recommender who wrote that the article, quote, should be required reading for every communication researcher and doctoral student, unquote. Congratulations, Dr. Fox and team. Now for the Outstanding Book Award. This year's recipient is Madhavi Murthy for the book entitled Stories That Bind Political and Culture in New India. This book stood out clearly to the members of the ICA Outstanding Book Award committee members. The committee members appreciated the importance of the topic, the book's theoretical rigor, ambitious, strong writing, and interdisciplinarity. In the words of the committee, the book is potentially transformative of the field and helps understand the way politics and popular culture are reshaping the contemporary Indian state. The book is innovative and creative both in terms of topic and in terms of theoretical formation. Where most authors are lauded if they manage one conceptual or theoretical innovation in a work, here there are many, each launching a new research agenda in its own right. It bridges worlds of diverse literature and traditions of knowledge and maintains consistent, robust citational practice. Focusing on a non-US context, it expands political economy with cultural analysis in an innovative way. It is seminal, not only for the field of communication, but for political science as well. The writing is beautiful and embodies compelling storytelling. It's very interdisciplinary, intersectional, and of relevance to much of our academic community. In general, the complexity and nuance of the argument made in this book was remarkable. And, the committee said, quote, it was just pleasurable and fascinating to read, unquote. Dr. Murthy was not able to be in attendance at this year's conference, but we will make sure they receive their award. Our next award is for the Applied Public Policy Research. The Applied Public Policy Research Award honors a scholar or group of scholars who have produced a systematic and outstanding body of research that addresses a significant communication problem of relevance to a public representing one or more groups of stakeholders relevant to a division or interest group of ICA. This year's award recipients are a team led by Christian Sandvig, University of Michigan. The rest of the team includes Isha Bandari, American Civil Liberties Union, Kari Kariolos, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Crystal Wilson, Northeastern University, Rachel Goodman, Racial Justice Program, American Civil Liberties Union, and Alan Mislove, Northeastern University. The Applied Research Committee members agreed that they received a number of outstanding and competitive nominations this year. Among the nominations, however, Professor Christian Sandvig and his team's research on algorithm auditing stood out. The committee considered this research groundbreaking and of great gravity to the entire world. The tool this research team developed is aligned with the digital evolution and is useful in determining whether certain algorithms contain biases. Based on the information provided in the nomination packet from the research and media reports, this work altered public policy around the federal anti-hacking law and has numerous implications at the interface of technology and communication. This novel approach opens new frontiers of impact in applied communication works that will have a broad, lasting impact on society. Congratulations to Dr. Sandvig and the rest of this remarkable team. Congratulations, Christian.
Great to see you, bro.
Next is the award for the Fellows Book. On behalf of the ICA Fellows Book Award Committee, I am pleased to present this year's Fellows Book Award to Pablo Bogowski. In the words of the committee, the Fellows Book Award goes to Pablo Bogowski for his book, Digitizing the News, Innovation in Online Newspapers, published in 2004 by the MIT Press. Digitizing the News offers an early account of how daily newspapers experimented in early days of electronic publishing. To quote the committee chair, quote, drawing on interdisciplinary insights from science and technology, communication and organization studies, and empirical evidence from archival research, case studies, and ethnography, Bukowski traces print journalism's move into electronic modes of content creation and publishing from the early 1980s through the emergence of the World Wide Web in the mid to late 1990s. In the words of another committee member, the book, quote, offers up both a prescient vision and a paradigm shift at a time when dominant accounts of the internet frequently took a celebratory view of the potential of the new technology. Underpinned by technological determinism, the book served as a powerful corrective, unquote. Congratulations, Dr. Bogowski.
Congratulations, Pablo.
Next is the award for Early Career Scholar. The ICA Early Career Scholar Award honors scholars who have substantially contributed to knowledge in the field of communication and show promise for continued development. Dr. Neil Lewis is an award-winning, community-engaged, interdisciplinary, team-based scholar of communication and social behavior, social identities and social contexts, and communication interventions in education, health, the environment, diversity, and equality, whose research is theoretically and methodologically significant. As an early career scholar, his 49 peer-reviewed articles have appeared in journals such as the Journal of Communication, Health Communication, and American Psychology, among many others. His methodological advocacy of open science and research on advancing disparity reduction and dialogue on equality, advancing health communication and communication for the public good has garnered recognition as a Fellow of the Association of American Psychology, Sage Young Early Career Award of the Society for Personality and Social Psychology, received the 2020 Best Popular Press Science article, quote, "Why Coming Up with Effective Innovations to Address COVID-19 is So Hard," unquote. Because of his methodological innovations on open science, Dr. Lewis was invited to speak in the 2020 ICA opening plenary. Because of the significance and impact of his research to date, we have no doubt Dr. Lewis's work will continue to shape communication scholarship for decades to come. As one of his letter writers argued, quote, "In short, Dr. Lewis is an exceptional communication scholar who links advancing communication science methods and theory to broader and important public impact concerns," unquote. Neil is currently not here to receive this award, as his very first two PhD students are graduating from Cornell as we speak. So as soon as that ceremony is over, he will drive up from Ithaca to be with us. Make sure to congratulate him if you see him later. We'll make sure his plaques get to him. Next is the Aubrey Fisher Mentorship Award. Initiated in 1988 following the death of its namesake, this award honors outstanding scholars, teachers, and advisors who serve as role models in those capacities and who have had a major impact on the field of communication. Most importantly, recipients of this award have influenced the discipline through their former students, who themselves are important figures in the communication discipline. This year's Aubrey Fisher Mentorship Award recipient is Henry Jenkins. Henry Jenkins is respected equally for his scholar and mentoring abilities. Dr. Jenkins' approach to communication utilizes insights from cultural studies, fan studies, cinema studies, and education, all while putting communication at the center. Henry Jenkins has advised dozens of doctoral students and has supported over 150 graduate students in their scholarly and professional aspirations. He has a passion for bringing out the best in them. As one of the nominators states, he is not interested in creating mini-me replicas of his own work, and he considers, without validity or insecurity, the value and potential of diverse perspectives and approaches. Dr. Jenkins garnered a reputation beyond his university for being a kind and compassionate professor willing to help any student through a crisis, no matter what. One nominator highlights his compassion in describing how Henry Jenkins approached reference letters. This one really stood out to me, if you listen to this. Each one taking multiple hours to compose. Each letter was personalized and deeply reflective. He wrote hundreds of such letters each sessions. Quote, "I encouraged him to not spend that much time on letters he sent to me, but he was horrified. He wanted me to fall in love with every student he mentored, to see their intellectual capabilities and their humanity in full," unquote. Dr. Jenkins' students have shaped the communication discipline and have also had a significant impact on communication industries. His students have won dozens of academic awards, including early career, dissertation, and top paper awards. They have also received coveted professional accolades, including Emmy Awards. His students have also published hundreds of well-received books, book chapters, and journal articles. We're pleased to honor Dr. Henry Jenkins with the 2023 Aubrey Fisher Mentorship Award. Dr. Jenkins, unfortunately, was not able to make it to this year's conference, but he gives his thanks and will make sure he receives this award. Now, our final honoree this afternoon is for the Stephen H. Chafee Career Achievement Award. This award honors a scholar or small group of collaborating scholars for a sustained contribution to theoretical development or empirical research related to communication studies over an extended period. The selection committee favors research that is innovative, asks conceptually rich questions, and elaborates new theoretical possibilities and/or compelling directions for empirical investigation. The body of work should comprise multiple publications and should have inspired second-generation work among a large number of other scholars. Rather than recognizing publication productivity or direct involvement in ICA, the award is designed to acknowledge the long-term significance of the recipient's scholarship for communication studies as a field. This year's Chafee Award recipient is Dr. Cynthia Stoll. Cynthia Stoll's work is an outstanding exemplar of engaged communication scholarship. Over the last 5 decades, her work on communication networks and globalization, digital visibility, global social justice, and human rights have resulted in her becoming one of the most influential scholars of organizational and group communication studies. Her intellectual leadership is evident in her over 120 publications, her substantial record of funding from agencies such as the National Science Foundation and the Royal Society of New Zealand's Marsden Foundation, and the scholarly awards she has received. The impact of her work is far-reaching. Her research has added theoretical richness to multiple fields within communication and has changed the trajectory of the study of communication networks and globalization, addressing both micro and macro problems. Her more recent work on collective action and digital visibility is heavily cited by scholars studying political communication, digital media, and activism and social justice. An ICA Fellow, former ICA President, and NCA Distinguished Scholar, Dr. Stoll has also sought to foster international and diverse collaborations, having co-authored work with scholars from Abu Dhabi, Australia, Denmark, Korea, and Malaysia, to name a few, and having chaired ICA's affiliate journal committee, which seeks to build connections with journals printed in languages other than English. Her commitment to studying communications from a global perspective and dedication to working with emerging scholars represent some of the core values of ICA. We're pleased to honor Dr. Cynthia Stoll with the Stephen H. Chafee Career Achievement Award.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
As you can see, we have some outstanding award winners this year, and it has truly been my pleasure to serve as ICA Awards Chair this year. This concludes the 2023 awards presentation. Congratulations again to all of our winners.
Thank you. Our appreciation to Dr. Travis Dixon and to all of the ICA Awards committee chairs and members for all of your work. As we saw those slides go by, I saw at the bottom the members of the committees that were involved in selecting this, and it brought back to me how grateful I am that when I put those committees together a year ago, every one of them said yes to me without exception. And they probably didn't know how much work they were going to do, but there was a lot of work, and I'm truly, truly grateful. So let's give a round of applause to all our committee members. Well then, now that we've had all the awards, it's been a truly excellent roster of fellows and award recipients, and it showcases the breadth and depth of scholarship within ICA. We should all be very proud. Now it seems I'm nearing the end of the presidential term. I would like to take a minute to say that it seems to have gone by really quickly. I joined in the midst of a somewhat inconvenient phase for our association and for our world. But in the process, I have developed a really strong bond network with fellow EC members and past presidents. It truly is a fraternity that I have already grown to appreciate over the years. I heard about previous presidents having a bond. I now feel part of that network, and I know that everything that I have done so far, or that I aspire to do the years ahead while being on the EC as president, past president, and president-elect, and president-eject, in all of those roles, It is truly a great honor for me to express my gratitude and appreciation for all the guidance, current EC members, past presidents, and I think that this is something that I would highly recommend to the next generation of scholars to think about doing as service to our field. Now, while all of that is true, it's been really wonderful to follow everything that's been happening at this ICA conference in Toronto. Until last year, the ICA Paris conference had the highest attendance ever, and I'm delighted that ICA Toronto has gone past that, becoming the most attended conference ever. And beyond the numbers, it's qualitatively been unarguably a huge, huge success, even as we still continue to go through that particular conference. And there's one person that I think we need to all join in thanking, and that person is my good friend, President-elect Unju Lee. Unju, I have a tag term that I've used that fellows on my fellow executive committee members and other ICA staff know, that Unju is the ultimate person who can be best described as having an iron hand with a velvet glove. And so with that, I want to again thank Unju for all her hard work in putting together this fantastic conference here in Toronto. And I'm going to hand things over to you right now then. Thank you.
Thank you, Nash. It was truly a humbling experience for me to organize the ICA 23 conference, for I didn't realize how much work goes into the conference preparation behind the scenes. And my special thanks go to our amazing executive director, Laura Sawyer, and her fabulous team, division and interest group planners, and the theme committee co-chairs, and regional hub organizers, and local host committee members. And I also want to thank past President Dr. Paula Gardner for her sound advice on numerous occasions. And thanks to all these and many other dedicated members' selfless service, I was able to manage this formidable task and even enjoyed this once-in-a-lifetime experience. And Toronto will always have a special place in my heart.
So now it's time for the ceremonial passing of the gavel to the next president, Dr. Unju Lee. And will you, in that role, Dr. Unju Lee, as ICA president, will you preside at all meetings of this association with justice, dignity, and impartiality, faithfully represent this association's best interests in internal and external meetings, and serve as the liaison agent between the association and other groups in our field with selflessness, integrity, and pride?
I will.
Then it is my honor and pleasure to pass this gavel to you and to introduce you to the gathered members of the association as the next president of ICA.
Thank you, Nash. And I look forward to the coming year and to what will be our, next slide, please. Okay, what will be our 74th annual conference, ICA 24, when we finally realize our goal, postponed by the pandemic in 2020, of holding the conference in the Gold Coast of Queensland, Australia, from June, not May, 20 to 24th. This is great because I'll be the president for one more month. And the conference is already being planned by our president-elect, Dr. Sylvia Weisbord. Will you please stand, Sylvia? And Dr. Weisberg writes that the purpose of the theme, communication and global human rights, is threefold: to take stock of the contributions of communication scholarship to the study of human rights, to foreground current research and practice, and to outline promising directions for communication studies. And you will receive an email and updates on the app on the final day of the conference with the full ICA 24 conference theme statement, as well as more information on room rates, travel, and the like. And as we near the end of our ceremony, I have one last person to invite to the stage, and that is Dr. Brooke Foucault-Wells.
Hello. It is my honor and pleasure to be here this evening to introduce my advisor and mentor, Dr. Noshir Contractor. Noshir is the Jane S. and William J. White Professor of Behavioral Sciences in the McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, the School of Communication, and the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. His list of honors and accomplishments are long, much too long to fit within the 3 minutes I have for this introduction. But suffice to say, if there is a society or organization that deals with communication, technology, networks, or teams, he is probably either the president, on the board, or among their fellows. But the story I want to tell you today is of how I met Noshir. I met him in graduate school when I took his class on social networks. And in that class, he taught me about this paradox in social networks called the small world paradox. And it goes something like this. I think it's pretty intuitive, that most of us like to form relationships in these tight-knit social circles, that if you look around, the people that you know all tend to know each other, right? But on the other hand, it's not all that hard to find a connection between you and any random person you encounter. You've probably had this experience of being in a meeting or even sitting on an airplane and discovering that you share a friend or acquaintance in common, right? But if you think about it, those two things shouldn't be possible at the same time. That's the paradox. We can't have these close-knit social circles and also these very short paths between us and everyone else. And the reason that we can do that, the solution to the paradox, is that a small number of people move freely between social circles. They make an effort to make friends with all kinds of different people in all kinds of different locations, and those people become the people who connect us together. And of course, you all know I'm talking about Noshir. So, Noshir is a person who makes a point of getting to know all kinds of people. He authentically enjoys learning from different people. He likes to travel and be all over the world. And he likes to bring people together into new constellations in order to make interesting things happen. I can't tell you how many times I personally have been in a meeting or been at some sort of organizational event, or even on an airplane, this is a true story, and we discover that we have in common Noshir. I'm guessing there are a lot of you in this room and at our regional hubs and calling in from online around the globe that have also had that experience. So, if your world feels a little smaller right now, thank Noshir. If it feels a little bit like you're a little more connected to ICA than you were before, that's because of him. And if you felt recognized, included, appreciated, and valued this year, he did that. We have him to thank. So Noshir, thank you for connecting us, making our world feel a little bit smaller. We're so lucky to have you, and we're forever grateful for your service as ICA president. I am delighted to present you this plaque on behalf of the Executive Committee, the Board of Directors, and the ICA membership as a commemoration of your achievement.
Thank you very much.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce ICA's outgoing president, Dr. Noshir Contractor, for the delivery of the 2023 ICA Presidential Address.
Wow. Thank you, Brooke. I think that without doubt, I would tell you a different story, and that is I cannot tell you how many places that I've gone around in the world where my claim to fame is that I know Brooke Foucault-Wells. So there must something passed along and has been amplified in her career way more than mine. Okay, so thank you again for giving me this opportunity to serve ICA. Today's presentation, which is down to about 20 minutes and counting. In the old days, when I would be in the audience and listen to ICA presidential addresses, they would go on for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Congratulations, you don't have to spend that much time listening to me today. So I'm going to keep it down to 20 minutes. I was talking to one of my colleagues who said, 45 minutes is a research lecture, 20 minutes is a sermon. I don't think I'm going to be sermonizing, but I'll leave you to judge that at the end of it. My title of the talk is Communication, the Emerging Hub Discipline, Present Realities and Future Responsibilities. I want to start by a story about how I entered into the field of communication. I started out with an undergraduate degree in India from the Indian Institute of Technology in electrical engineering. And the reason I did that is because my parents asked me when I was young what I wanted to do, and I said I really wanted to solve the world's problems. And so automatically they said, well, what you need to do is you need to go get a degree in engineering. There was no computer science then. And then, of course, when I was there and I realized I wanted to go to grad school, and I asked my parents and I asked myself and others, what is it that I want to do now? And my answer was really actually quite straightforward. I wanted to solve the problems created by engineers solving the world's societal problems. And it was at that point that I decided to make an entry into the field of communication. Today, after being in the field for I joined the field as a grad student at USC in 1983. So after being in the field now for 40 years, I have two myths that I want to share with you in today's presentation. The first is that some have perceived us as a small field on the margins, a nice to have rather than a need to have. The second myth is that we are the, in quotes, International Communication Association. I would like to share with you some evidence about why both of these are myths that are in need of debunking, one for better and one for worse. The first myth, some have perceived us as a small field on the margins, a nice to have rather than a need to have. But despite being a relatively young discipline, communication has now emerged as a central hub in intellectual discourse, and other disciplines are taking notice. We did know that a long time ago. It's good to see that the other disciplines have finally begun to wake up to it. Here is some evidence. If we look at all the communication journals that are listed by the Web of Science and Science Direct, there are 156 communication journals. Out of those 156 journals, 50 are cross-listed with other disciplines. In social sciences, arts and humanities, physical sciences, life sciences, and health sciences. A big caveat, the analysis that I'm going to present today does not include citations of books in the field of communication and citations made by communication books. This is just an artifact of the way we collect digital trace data on bibliometrics at this point. So what is the intellectual neighborhood for the field of communication? If one defines that neighborhood by the cross-listing of communication journals with other disciplines, this is what it looks like. As you can see, communication now is very central, where a very large number of our journals are cross-listed with a whole set of disciplines across physical sciences, health sciences, social sciences, and yes, arts and humanities. If you look at this, just by way of example, think of a journal like Public Culture. Public Culture it links us with fields such as the arts and humanities and fields such as computer science. If you look at pragmatics and communication, you again see the commonalities between journals that are publishing materials by scholars in communication alongside other disciplines, as for example. Just a sense of how central comm has become now and being recognized by all of these other disciplines. Now we can ask ourselves a question: how has that intellectual neighborhood changed over time? So this is what that looked like between 1950 and 1984. So the first 35 years that we had data for, we see that we were having journals mostly cross-listed with social sciences and a bit with art and humanities, very, very light on health sciences, life sciences, and physical sciences. If you look at the size of the communication node, it's a small little circle there that tells us the total number of communication journals that we had at the time. Fast forward, this is what it looks like in the last 35 years between 1985 and 2019, for which we had data. There has been a massive increase in the number of journals in communication, social sciences, and many other areas. That's not surprising. But look at the level of overlap that you see between journals that are publishing material in communication, social sciences. There's been an increase in arts and humanities. There has been an increase in physical sciences, health sciences, not so much in life sciences, I must say. But this is an indication of some of the ways in which our field is becoming more and more of that hub. More evidence. Who are we citing as communication scholars? So if you look at the journals and we see that between 2005 and 2019, our main area from where we are citing continues to be the social sciences. But yes, we are citing more from health sciences, from physical sciences, from arts and humanities, and to a lesser extent from life sciences. This is who we are citing. If you turn the table and say, who is citing us? There again you see this dramatic increase where people in other disciplines are taking notice of what we are doing and are citing us in increasing numbers. Yes, not only in the social sciences, but also in the physical sciences, health sciences, and so on. Another indication about how much other disciplines are taking note of the contributions that we are making and looking to us as being intellectual leaders and at least as intellectual partners in many of these endeavors. So our field fact number one, our publications appear in journal cross-listed with many other disciplines. They increasingly cite and are cited by publications from all of these other disciplines. The reality is that we have emerged as a hub field. And the implication is that as a hub, we in communication have a greater responsibility to serve as a leader in this particular role. What does it mean to be a hub? Well, if you look at the definition, one way of thinking of a hub is the center of something. And communication is increasingly playing that central role in all circles, whether it is in places like the National Academy of Sciences, whether it is in our journals, whether it is in other public media discourse. We are seen as someone that is at the center of something. We also attract a lot of attention. For better or for worse, the recent pandemic, the recent infodemic has certainly put communication at the center of attention and as something that attracts a lot of attention. And then finally, and importantly, I think, we have become the enabler of connections, a third definition of what we mean by a hub, which means we broker connections between disciplines that were not seeing things together. And if today's world, we have to address the grand societal challenges, no single discipline by itself is going to be able to do that. If we want to address the large intellectual challenges, no single discipline is going to be able to do that. But communication has taken on that role very successfully of being the enabler of these connections. Now to the second myth. We are the International Communication Association. Here is some evidence. Scholars who are members of ICA are largely from the United States and the West. Scholars publishing in communication journals are largely from the United States and the West. And collaborations worldwide are also centered largely in the United States and the West. Allow me to elaborate. How global is our association? This was a paper that was presented by a large number of us at the 2022 Paris conference. And if you look at the percentage, so the leads on this, I would say, are Jasmine Wu, who's a PhD student at Northwestern Communication, about to head next month to be a postdoc at the Wharton School of Management. But Jasmine, along with Robbie Rattan, who may be here, Colin Ager, and several others of us who were cheerleading on the sidelines, published this article, and you look at it and you see there are only 3 divisions in ICA that have more than half of its members from outside the United States of America. Those 3 divisions, and then there are 2 that are the least central, the most US-centric in that sense. So amongst the member globalization, this is what ICA looks like in terms of membership. This is data from 2020, and you begin to see how much of the world remains uncharted territory for the International Communication Association. If you look at the division where we do the best, it's the Journalism Studies division. It should say Journalism Studies, not journalism. And if you look at the Journalism Studies division, you see that that is the division with the lowest enrollment from the United States. 41.6% of the members are from the US, and then again, the rest of the countries are primarily from Western Europe, and then Israel and Hong Kong there as well. If you look at the Mobile Comm division, which is the second most globally represented division, here again, the United States is at 41%, and you see some of the other countries represented there. Again, mostly from the West, though it's interesting to see Kenya move in there, as well as China, into the top 10 category. And then if you look at the most US-centric division, the Comm Science and Biology interest group, and there you see that over 3/4 of our membership comes from the United States. There are many reasons that we can talk about that, but these are important data points for us to look at. And then if you look at the interpersonal communication division, here you see, again, just about 75% of our membership coming from the United States, though it is important to see that the second country in ICA membership that focuses on interpersonal communication, way behind the United States, but still ranked second in the world, is China. So what about global representation in communication publications? If you look at communication publication authors and by where they are currently located, the organizations are located, once again you find that amongst the top 20 back in 2015, the first was the United States, the second was Great Britain, Spain, Australia, and if you look again at this list and you look at the global map, once again you see the dominance of the United States and the West in terms of where communication scholars are based when they publish in communication journals. If you look at it again in 2019, things are a little different. A certain small country by the name of China has now moved up to number 3 in this ranking. But again, by and large, it's still heavily dominated by the United States, Europe, and Great Britain, and other countries in that area. This is the transition between the two. You see that the United States continues to dominate, Great Britain continues to dominate, Spain fell down a little bit, and then countries like China have gone up a little bit in this map. So what about global collaborations? This is just where people are. But if you want to think about networks across countries, collaborations of scholars across country, the story doesn't get a whole lot better. There's one country that's the hub in global collaborations. Most countries, if you see the United States, is the country that has collaborators with other parts of the world. And not surprisingly, 9 out of the 10 top partnerships and collaborations are between the United States and some other country. In the year 2015, it was the US and South Korea, followed by Great Britain, Canada. The next country that comes in with 5 collaboration partners in the top 20 is the UK. 2019, things changed just a little. US is still the top collaborative partner, now accounting for 7 out of the top 10, and now the United States' best collaborative partner has moved from South Korea to China. So you begin to see that there are some movements that are promising in terms of our efforts at becoming more global. So field fact number 2, members of ICA are largely from the US and the West. Only 3 divisions have more than 50% of the members from outside the United States: journalism studies, mobile communication, and political communication. And the authors of communication publications are still mainly from the US and the West. And the scholarly collaborations worldwide are also centered in the US and the West. So we are not yet, in my opinion, I would submit, but we can become the International Communication Association. In 2022, the conference theme that I chose in Paris was One World, One Network, followed by the infamous interrobang, the question mark superimposed on the exclamation. And the idea of the interrobang was that it was to celebrate and problematize simultaneously the phrase One World, One Network. As we look at where we are today, we want to ask ourselves the questions, what is it that ICA is doing to nurture scholarship, both celebration and problematizing of the phrase One World, One Network? Well, I'm going to end here by talking about a few things that we have done in this past year. The first is that thanks to an idea that was originally conceived by Mary Beth Oliver, we now have a very successful and robust system of creating regional hubs. And this year alone, we had 8 regional hubs around the world. So even while we were mostly focused here in Toronto, all of these individual places around the world were very, very active and vibrant. Here are some screenshots that I got from social media just in the past 24 hours of all the different activities that have been happening, not only at each of these hubs, but hub-to-hub activities. Many of the signs that you see there were organized by one hub, and they had ICA-related activities with other hubs. This sense of decentering from just a single annual convention to create a global event where different hubs are connecting with each other at the same time as we are here, to me, is a really healthy and robust sign. We also, in the past year, have created 6 regional chapters. These are regional chapters that work independently and autonomously, in financial terms, from ICA headquarters, and yet they enroll their own membership. They have their own set of activities with guidance and oversight from the ICA. And this is, again, I think, a wonderful step in our effort at being able to honor the fact that if we want to nurture communication, we need to be able to work with a pilot. This currently is a pilot of 6 cities that you see, 6 countries that you see out there: Indonesia, Kenya, Nigeria, China, India, and France. And I hope that someday a person who becomes a member of an ICA regional chapter in one of these locations will have the privilege and the opportunity to stand here where I am today as a future ICA president. Here are some examples of, in the month of, starting at the end of March up until the 5th of May, I was crisscrossing the globe, just as Brooke mentioned, and I was there at each of these events that we were able to kick off, 4 of them that we were able to kick off, and here are some photographs from each of these events. It was really, really gratifying to see the excitement around the world for the inauguration of these chapters. And then the last part I want to talk about in terms of the One World, One Network is that I'm very pleased to announce today, for the first time, that the ICA Executive Committee has approved the creation of a new Global South and Regional Scholarship Development Fund by ICA. The fund has benefited from an initial contribution from an anonymous donor of $10,000, and we are very much hoping that many of you will consider contributing to this fund so that we can make it into an endowment, which needs $25,000 to be qualified as an endowment. And the main goals of this is to help support and cultivate communication and media scholarship across the Global South and underrepresented regions. And for this, I do want to give a shout out to Shiv Ganesh, who is the chair of the ICA Membership and Internationalization Committee. Shiv and I have been talking about this on and off for quite a while, and I happened to be at a conference in University of Texas, Austin in May, and we went for a walk on campus, and Shiv and I said, we should do it. What's stopping us from doing it? And so all of a sudden, in the span of less than a few weeks, here we are with the establishment of this fund. So thank you again, Shiv, and I do hope many of you will consider contributing to this fund. The last thing that we have done in this context is the creation of the ICA Podcast Network. As you were walking in towards the Grand Ballroom, you might have seen a big sign out there with all of the different ICA podcasts that we have launched in the last couple of years. There have been 88 episodes that we have recorded in 8 series along this way. And from everything I hear and the analytics that we have seen, there has been a growing interest. And each of these episodes is 22 minutes. but it's great material to use in your classes as you want your students and others to be able to think about not only reading an article, but by listening to a snippet from one of these people. In the next slides, you'll see QR codes. I'm going to go through these slides very quickly, but just to give you a sense of what we've been able to accomplish and how grateful we are for everyone. So this is the ICA Podcast Network QR code on the top, and these are the different series that we have been working on, the 8 series that we've been working on so far. And as you look at this, you see the first one is Architects of Communication Scholarship. This is a series where we've been talking with the legends in our field and some of these names that you might recognize and photographs that you might recognize. We have been able to interview 36 of these scholars already, each in 20-minute interviews, interviewed by their mentors. And in each of these cases, we were very fortunate that 24 of these episodes were sponsored by Hong Kong Baptist University, and 12 of them were sponsored by Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. We also had a series called Digital Alchemy, sponsored at Northwestern, which looks at misogyny as well as other important issues that we are studying. And so there again, we see episodes that my colleague Moya Bailey has been hosting on issues like grassroots alchemy, algorithms of justice, engaging the past to build a community. I'm going to let you read these by yourself in the interest of time. In addition to Digital Alchemy, which has 9 episodes that you see there, we also were very grateful to Sarah Benet-Weiser for hosting and helping sponsor the series called Feminist Networks in the Conjuncture. At this point, we have 6 episodes of those, and as you can see, Sarah did a fantastic job of inviting some really provocative guests from communication and in some cases outside communication. Mohan Datta has been the host of a series called Interventions from the Global South, which is sponsored by the Institute for Advanced Study in the Global South at Northwestern University in Qatar. And here again, you see some of the guests that he's had on that particular show. And then my personal favorite, of course, from ICA's own Student and Early Career Advisory Committee, CCAC. And the CCAC hosted a series of shows, and you can see that many of these are of great interest to young students who are entering our field on topics like social media, personal branding, returning to a conference, exploring the job market, industry careers, networking at conferences, professional development opportunities across ICA divisions, tips and tricks when talking with the media. I recommend that this is not just for student and early career. Some of us old fogies could learn a lot from what has been said on these interviews as well. And then I also want to thank Patrice Buzzanel and the University of Florida for hosting and sponsoring, respectively, a series that we are just kicking off called Communicating for Impact. JCMC, the discussion section, Nicole Ellison, the editor-in-chief, has been hosting a series of podcast episodes, mostly focusing on articles published in the Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication, but also taking on broader topics like data ethics for researchers, IRBs, and journal reviewers. And so we have 6 of those episodes on, and we also finally had a series of episodes for last year's conference on One World, One Network that was chaired by each of these sessions were hosted by one of the conference theme co-chairs for that year. So, in closing, what I want to say is that it will take a multitude of networks for communication to help address the grand societal challenges of the 21st century, and communication as a field, both networks within our field, within our divisions, as well as across, are really well positioned today to be able to serve as a hub in addressing the grand societal challenges of the 21st century. I want to thank 4 of the folks who helped me a lot in putting all of these slides together, doing all of the pretty advanced analytics that you saw on those very simple slides that we were putting up there. Alina Luncianu, who is at Northwestern, about to start at Northeastern to become one of Brooks' colleagues. Jasmine, who I mentioned, is becoming a postdoc at Wharton. Neelam, who's getting her PhD at Northwestern, and Devante Brown, who's been the executive producer of the ICA Podcast Network, and many of you might recognize his name in corresponding with him for all of the different things that we've done out there. So with that, I want to thank you all. I want to make one last comment. The presentation that I did today here was not one that is novel. Many, many former ICA presidents over the years have talked about the role of communication as a field and ICA as an organization being important in the network of intellectual discourse. Many of those former presidents who talked about it are sitting right here in this room today. And all I can say is that we as a field have been very grateful to all of those before us who have helped us get to this position in the network. And it is now our role and our responsibility to build on that and to continue to help make communication that central hub in the overall intellectual discourse. Thank you very much.